ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Video Games Today. We are mostly Alta Confusion plus
some random
Bog.
guy. Some random guy.
Random guy. My name is Charlie. I am the editor and founder of Alta Confusion, an independent video game news and review website. To my left is
Jesse. I'm the comic relief.
To my right is
John. I hate people.
to my further right.
My name is Bobby, and I am not with Alta Confusion. I'm with the Voice of Geeks Network at vognetwork.com. The 10-second version. I've been a video game podcaster for almost 11 years now, and I run a geek website, internet radio station, and podcast network.
Yay, Bobby!
Yay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you were not at the first panel, which was the destruction of the game industry, this one's going to run a little bit different than that one, and that is that this one is all about you. So what we're going to do is we're immediately going to ask you to step up to the mic and tell us something about video games that you find enjoyable, you hate, you can't understand, or any random questions. Yes, sir. I see you making the move. Go for it. Go.
Let's go, Momocon.
Come on.
I like video games because they allow me to experience something I've otherwise never experienced without A, risking my life and probably dying multiple times over and over again, or B, having lots of money.
Wow. But you spend lots of money in that video games.
Yes, but always less than $100 at a time. Per game.
So you don't buy collector's
I don't know if you were outside after the last panel where I was going off on like bass fishing games, because like if I want to go bass fishing, I'll actually just go bass fishing. Like,
And once again, let me reiterate. Look,
There's a reason
exactly.
why I
You
don't
just
play
play it in
those
your
games.
bathroom and you actually get
I
splashed.
live like
That'd be great.
half a mile from the Chattahoochee River. I can just like walk into the water with my fishing rod and go fishing for trout.
Walk into the Chattahoochee.
But then you gotta go outside and there's mosquitoes.
There's mosquitoes, the sun.
It's called wear long
pants. Most of us don't like the sun.
Vitamin D sucks.
What is the sun you talk of?
That's right. Me.
I'm not worried about it.
I don't like
Crazy to see me
You know the other one? Yes, sir. Bring it.
I gotta go to the mic.
Yeah.
Let's go, Extra Life.
First of all, if anyone has not signed up for Extra Life, go ahead and sign up for Extra Life. It is
Sign
a
up for
great
Extra
cause.
Life.
Do it.
He's got a table down there. You can sign
What
up.
if we want to support like our local hospital that's because we're not local?
You can support whatever hospital you want. Just
Yes,
as long as you
the
sign up,
registration
you're
fee
gonna
is
set up
all
your
of them.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
You're not
Yes, sir.
local.
Question.
No, I'm from Columbia,
Testing.
South Carolina.
Fantastic.
Yes,
You
sir.
are tested.
Close enough.
Why does Activision make a new Call of Duty game every fucking year?
Because everybody buys them.
Ask him that question.
Well, Charlie, just Can you ask about Sony and Madden too? Just get out of there.
Camera. We're in the wrong panel for that.
Seriously. Oh, whoops. Yeah, that was the destruction of the game industry, but I'll answer it anyways.
You said it was about us.
Yes, absolutely. It is about you.
Unless you're asking about fucking Activision.
Or EA or Sony. Basically, it is a money. You know, it's all about the money and people. I apologize. Who likes Call of Duty?
I used to.
Okay, well I'm gonna apologize right now because. Okay, yes, what it used to be, absolutely. What it is now is a monstrosity. Real quick, this is what the future of that type of gaming holds in store for you. The single-player game is your tutorials that you get to know where all the buttons are, and then it's literally the same freaking thing. It's a core mechanic with a couple different modes and a couple maps, and then they're gonna DLC the shit out of you until you can't take it no more. Oh, and they release another $60 game.
If you ever notice, Charlie's a video game elitist. If the game is not exactly like he wants it to be, it's shit.
Hello?
I beg to differ with you. The reason why they have the single player game is
Yes.
so that everybody can make a microwave.
Okay,
There's
touche.
not enough explosions.
No, oh, come on. It's close.
No, the sad reality is the reason that Call of Duty does really well is because of what we call like the silent majority. The majority of people who buy games and play games don't come to panels like this.
Yep.
They don't go to places like Alta Confusion or my website or even follow the game industry. They don't look at game reviews. They like the Maddens, they like the Call of Duties, and they know those from the TV commercials, and they're perfectly fine with that, and they don't care about the hardcore indie games that we like. And they are the ones that are buying it, and that's who's going to give them all the money. And so Activision says they exist, they want this product, we're going to give it to them, and they make a lot of money and laugh to the bank.
So you're talking about the sheep, right?
Yeah.
Well, just to follow up on that,
Yeah.
I work with
I
junior
know.
high and high school students, and every day you hear them talking about, they're gonna go home and play the latest Call of Duty with each other. And then so guess what they're asking their parents for Christmas and their birthday is the latest Call of Duty. The parents don't care as long as the kid enjoys it, so that's what they're gonna buy so it entertains their kids.
Call of Duty today is Counter-Strike Source from yesteryear. That's all I'm saying. It's the game that everybody plays, and all the little kids want to curse and scream at their opponents. That's all Call of Duty is.
We have a rebuttal over here, I think.
Yes, sir. All right.
I want to hear what you have to say. Come on.
I do have a quick question for the crowd. How many more iterations of Assassin's Creed is it going to take before it becomes Call of Duty?
It already is.
They are skipping this year. They did skip a year.
Yeah, well, there you go. Okay, so it's one more year. They're extending
Everybody
it.
go downstairs. Extra Life. We're in the exhibitor hall tomorrow.
Just don't play Call of Duty on your extra life.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Hello.
I am a fan of RPG games.
Yes.
And therefore, I love the scrolls because it allows you to customize yourself however you like, right? Do you think, not just, I think it's called Bethesda, or if any game company, will they ever give us something where we put in like our date of birth and our features, like our height and all that, so they could like make a character for us to see what we would be like in that world?
Madden.
Yeah, it's Second Life. That's really what it. The thing is, the unfortunate thing is, there are games that have attempted to basically try to give you a world where you can do whatever you want to and be exactly what you are in that world. But because there's not a lot of direction, it doesn't really work, except for Second Life. Second Life is kind of a beast of its own weirdness. Plus, it's still around because there's still those lawsuits about what property is and do you own your property.
That's a different story altogether. That's a whole legal matter. But that's with any game. And that's, I think, honestly, going to your point of what is can we put ourselves into a game? Then you're kind of saying, well, now I'm in the game, so it's my game, but it's not really you, and it's not really in many ways your game anyway. It's somebody else's game that they're letting you play. And I know lots of games have tried to do you can kind of build your own character and you can kind of get it close to you, except mine never looked anything like me after an hour and a half of trying. And then once it went into the game, it always seemed a little funny because it was not really built well for that anyway. Because I tried it with Mass Effect once, it didn't work very well. I looked a little funky.
If you're interested in characters and games, go read a book called Ready Player One. If anybody's read it, basically it's set in the future, and basically you are actually in the game, if you want to call it that. It's a really good book that kind of.
Well, it's a futuristic.
It's the holodeck come to existence.
It's basically everything exists through an OS called Oasis, where you go to school, you go to movies, you buy your groceries, you play a game. Everything is through this VR haptic suit. Okay.
Yeah, it's VR haptics. Steven Spielberg's making the movie for it.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Is that supposed to be a good thing?
To make fun of them?
Yeah,
Maybe.
Could be.
Could be. He's not just the executive producer. He's actually, getting his hands dirty. So that potentially could be good. At least it's not a property that already existed. Right.
And my second question is.
Yes, sir.
It's a bit controversial.
Okay. I'll try to hold myself in.
You love Activision.
Oh!
I love Square Enix, so I don't really have.
I'm a
All right.
Square Enix fan.
Okay.
But is Microsoft and the Xbox One still relevant today?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
Is Microsoft and the Xbox One still relevant, or should they just give up?
No,
No,
it's
still relevant.
very relevant because the Xbox One is a multimedia-centric device. It's not. PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One is not about games. I hate to break it to anyone who thinks that it's mainly about games. It's about streaming your YouTube, your Hulu, Netflix, all that stuff, and then on the side it also plays games. That's what it is. That's the reality.
But when you talk about it like that, then you almost take the games out of the equation. Only us as gamers and certain sets of people have it as a gaming system, but there's a lot of who use it for everything else.
Right.
So then you almost take the games out of the equation eventually.
Next
And then
question.
it's basically a Wii at that point.
Yeah. And
Yes.
that's why it's probably doing a lot better than the Wii U, which is basically a gaming system.
Right.
System. Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. What is your question?
I wanted to know, what is your favorite style of game, like MMO, RPG, FPS, and what kind of games would you recommend for those categories?
We'll start with Jesse. Do you want me to start on the other end of the
Yeah,
table? You
start
think
on the
about
other
it?
end while I think about it.
Bobby?
So my favorite genre is actually the music and rhythm action games. I grew up kind of on Beatmania 2DX, which you can play downstairs. Tokyo Arcade has one over there. But I've been a fan of the Rock Band series, and then recently Guitar Hero Live. I actually really like from the rhythm action series.
So where you like games that don't have their own initiatives?
I did
Stuff
not
that
play
you
any
don't
game
wanna
that used
buy.
my feet.
Oh, okay.
I'm willing to buy a game.
I'm going to buy something under $50.
Okay.
Okay, so something that doesn't require a plastic instrument.
Precisely.
There's this game that's kind of illegal, but
Please continue.
Well, my favorite game of all time is Katamari Damacy.
My genre of choice is MMOs. I don't know if that interested you all, but like Rift, World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy XIV, I played a bunch of them. But I go in waves, because after playing a game for a year of a lot, you get bored of it, but then you move into the next one. So that's what but I played RPGs, mobile games, FPSs, but usually I go back to MMOs eventually.
okay, my first answer is cheat. I love indie games.
That's a genre?
Because I'm an indie game reviewer. But if I had to go to a specific genre, I would say that for the longest time I was a huge JRPG fan, but I've been so far burned out by all of the grind that comes with it. So I would say that my favorite genre now is more action RPG. And my favorite game, I don't know if I have a specific favorite game. I play some Sproggywood's amazing.
Sproggywood is fantastic.
It is it's a turn-based RPG where all the levels are randomly generated.
We could actually show that tomorrow.
Yes, we could.
You come by our booth.
Yes. But if I had to name a specific game that definitely, well, okay, I'm going to go real old school here. And one of the games that's always been my favorite, and I wish they would remake it. There was a rumor that it was going to be remade, then the license was pulled at the last minute and became one of the most just shitastic games known to man, called Elemental. There was a game called Masters of Magic, which is basically like Civilization, but set in like a mythological realm with like Pegasuses and dragons and stuff like that. That was an amazing game, and it's definitely one of the ones that shaped me into the man I am today.
I'm a history person. I always liked the Assassin's Creed, but until they turned into Call of
Unity.
Duty. But oddly enough, this is going to surprise them a little bit as I've been thinking about this. I always really liked racing games. Like, the last game I can remember super being excited about that wasn't Assassin's Creed was Gran Turismo 5. Like, I love, because I'm a teacher. I will never be able to afford a nice car. But like, you can like, without having to give somebody my ID and test driving it around, I can get inside of a car and see what the dashboards, what's the one for Xbox?
Forza. Yeah.
Like, I love them. I love seeing the cars, and I love being able to customize the colors because they do such a good job being accurate with it, with the color schemes, the dashboards, the way the car shifts, the way the car sounds.
Do you know how much money the developers have to pay, like the manufacturers, to actually have realistic damage on the car?
Yeah.
It's
A lot.
bananas.
Now on the racing thing front, because like Gran Turismo 5 and Forza Motorsport 6, those are like really the simulation heavy. I'm going to tune my car. On the Xbox One side, or the Xbox 360 and the Xbox One side, Forza Horizon is kind of more of the arcadey, but it still has the very realism of the car itself, the sounds, the looks. So if you don't want something that's a real simulation racer, I love the Forza Horizon series, both 1 and 2.
So an upgraded Cruising USA.
I knew he was going to say Cruising USA.
Great, it's a classic, man.
It is a classic.
Crazy Texas.
Really?
Thanks, guys.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Anybody else got questions? Yes, sir. Come on down.
All right, how's it going?
Hello.
Excellent.
I'm actually an artist. I'm a musician myself,
Mhm.
and I always been fascinated by the debate about video games actually being a new type of art, the music, the graphics, all of that. What are your opinions on whether a video game is or is not an art?
Bobby?
Do you want to go down the road again?
Sure.
You started with me last time.
All right, fine. Jesse?
Oh, video games are absolutely art. In fact, I think video games can be such an art more than art in a museum. I've seen some absolute crap put up on a wall in a museum, and then you look at some video games and they are beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. I was talking to somebody about Heavy Rain earlier, and I've never seen such a beautifully done like human features like in a game before. But I'm trying to think, like when I talk about racing games, what they can do with like the courses, the colors of the sunset, like oh my god, it's beautiful. Like what they can do is just, it's amazing. Oh, it's definitely an art. And then I think of a game when you talk about like music, like Bastion.
Yeah.
Bastion had an unbelievable soundtrack. Like oh.
So does Transistor.
Yeah.
So like oh, it's definitely an art form. I will always support it.
I personally, first of all, funny you would say about like art, like crazy ass art in like a gallery or museum. There was a case recently where someone accidentally dropped their glasses.
I was just about to bring this up.
Yeah. They dropped their glasses and everyone started taking pictures like, oh my god, what a unique and stylistic interpretation of the world. And it's like, nah, someone just dropped their glasses, dude, just left them on the
Did you
floor.
hear about Antiques Roadshow? You heard about that? So Antiques Roadshow, I guess maybe a month ago or 2 months ago, a woman brought up this like vase that was a face, and they valued it at $50,000. And this woman saw it and she called up her friend and said, hey, the vase you made in high school just got valued at $50,000. It was like an art school project and they couldn't tell the difference. And then they ended up revaluing it at $3,000. Like, like really, and then you think like, I'm going on now because you hit on something I like.
Go.
Like the sculpture work that they have to do to come up with it, they then sell as pieces with the game. I mean, come on. The stills, like, it's all art. It's just,
That's right.
To be honest, I think when it comes to video games, I think one of the issues that a lot of people may have is that you can't really peg it down as a specific type of art because it's a multifaceted type of thing. It could be the story, it could be the music, it could be the use of colors, the overall graphics, the story. I mean, there's so many different integral parts that make a game, and if it's done right, like a Heavy Rain, the experience is, mind-blowing. I played Heavy Rain once, had everyone till the end, lost all but 2, and I can never play that game again. Like, it had that much of a fundamental impact on me, more than like any book, any movie, anything has on me. So definitely a work of art.
I definitely love the music aspect of art. You especially take Square Enix and a lot of their stuff they've done. And they have entire symphonies that devote like their livelihood to doing these symphonies of the Final Fantasies and the other games. Yep.
Sorry to interrupt. Did you know that on Final Fantasy 14 there was a music contest going on?
Yes, I just saw that. And actually, one of my favorite songs ever. So Final Fantasy 14, there was actually 2 games. They had the first one, which epically failed, and they came out with Realm Reborn. And they had basically, when Yoshi, the producer, released it, they had this song that basically gave the rebirth of that to Realm Reborn. It is one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard. It's like this 13-minute song. And this woman, she just wails, and just a phenomenal song.
So
You take-
Susan Calloway?
What?
Susan Calloway?
Probably, yeah, I can't, that's like a distant something, world, distant worlds or something.
I can't think of the name of the song. I'm trying to play the chorus.
Yeah, but it's just one of those songs I hear. I'm like, every time I hear that song, I want to go back and play the game again. So yeah, definitely music, or most people know Final Fantasy VII's One Wing Angel, or the Zelda song. You
or
got the
Aerith's
guys going
theme.
downstairs. If you go to the vendor hall, go immediately to your right, and there's a guy who's sitting there on his violin playing. Usually, you'll hear the Zelda theme song, and he'll take requests too. So yeah, absolutely, it's art. And now you got, for some reason, Blizzard's trying to monopolize that art with the terrible movie that's coming out. But look at their cutscenes though in World of Warcraft. When they first came out with these cutscenes at the time, I was like, this is awesome. I wish they made a movie out of these cutscenes.
Which is
Unfortunately,
coming out in
they didn't.
June.
And they did.
It's gonna be terrible.
Hey, don't ruin that for me.
Spoiler alert: the movie's gonna be terrible.
Can you tell?
I haven't actually seen. I have not seen the movie.
But you believe
I am
that-
going to freaking go to the midnight premiere, man.
But you believe that Warcraft is going to suck.
What's that?
You believe the movie's going to suck.
Yes.
Yes, because Hollywood's involved.
Like just the storyline from the previews is like, we're orcs, we are good. Please accept us, humans.
Yeah.
It just looks lame.
Is that not
Blizzard's
how,
never been the best at writing.
is that not how the story started in the first place?
Well, yeah, but
But it's Hollywoodized.
yeah.
They basically, look, Hollywood takes what could be a potentially amazing universe, story, whatever, and they suck the soul out of it until it's just a husk of itself. I'm a little bit passionate. And then they're like, and now we'll write our own stuff and forget about all the actual, canon and rules and the way the story's supposed to work. We're gonna make it so it looks shiny and cool.
Hey, the first one was good.
Yes.
First one.
And then they kept going.
And then here's the funny thing about the games, like, because I've asked you this, so now like the Resident Evil games have changed from being really survival horror to being more action. So is the Resident Evil game now a movie-based game? Have the movies like now set the direction of the Resident Evil game? So is it now a movie tie-in?
No. No.
You're affecting the audience.
I don't know.
So to answer your question, the short answer, yes. But the thing is about this question is that, why do we even ask this question? Are video games art? And the fundamental reason really is because we want First Amendment protections. And the problem with that, trying to define that and why it's always been a question, is because they can't define art. And there's another thing that government can't define, and it's actually pornography. What they actually say, a lawmaker says is, I can't explain it to you, but I know it and I see it. It's what I point at and say it. And that's the same thing as art. What is art? I can't tell you what it is, but I can point at it and tell you that that's art. And the thing is, since you can't define art with words that encompasses everything, it's really hard for the government to say, yes, that should have First Amendment protections. I think it's art. We all think it's art, but it's the underlying question is, how do we convince everybody else that it can be legally defined as art and have that First Amendment protection?
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome, sir.
Oh yeah.
Question? Yes, sir.
Next.
Come on up.
So you were talking a lot about games like Heavy Rain, and there's companies like Telltale Games. What do you think about the narrative in video games?
Who wants to start?
Oh, I grew
Go
up
for
on
it.
point and click adventure games, which is kind of what Telltale's been brought back. And I think they've done a wonderful, wonderful job at, engaging people with a narrative and a story-based game, especially now that we're having a whole lot of multiplayer games, people are kind of getting exposed to that. So I think that, like back in the day, when we had Sierra and Lucasfilm Games were the two, those were my fanboy wars. I was Team Sierra all the way. So, and that was all narrative and all, because we couldn't, on the PC back then, we couldn't have big action. So it was all the adventure and the narrative, and even with text adventures and stuff, even before then on the punch cards. And I don't know if we were around punch cards. But anyway, I think that, Telltale has done a great job of bringing back the narrative. And then also like Heavy Rain did a really good job in some of what they've done since. And apparently Uncharted 4's got a good story too. I haven't played it yet. It's very hard to do a narrative right in an interactive environment, but there are people that are getting it.
I'm a terrible person when it comes to that question, honestly. I just want to go in and kill shit in video games. That's all I care about.
Yeah, you don't care why you fight.
Pretty much. I don't care.
Yeah.
The old BioWare games like Jade Empire and Mass Effect aside, I don't care about the storylines. Those are great storylines, but they also had phenomenal action.
Except for the ending of Mass Effect.
We're okay.
Well,
All right,
okay.
so
Well, last one-
what-
one
I was
more.
fine with that.
If there's a skip dialogue button, he's gonna push it.
Oh yeah, like somebody mentioned World of Warcraft dialogue. I don't know what happened in the game. I
Yeah,
just
he has
skipped
no
it.
idea. He has no idea what's going on. It's like, I killed this guy and I killed that
It
guy.
was probably me.
If done right, narrative is an amazing thing. I think that Telltale is doing a lot of things right. One of the things that they they've mastered is the concept of episodic content. There are a lot of companies out there that have tried to copy it and have failed miserably. But
So what are the
Half-Life
basics?
2 Episode 1.
do what?
Half-Life 2 Episode 3.
So why do basics?
They basically from day one they've tried to go after the episodic narrative and they know how to draw to make the story work. You feel like you've actually you're in it.
That and they are consistent with their timing. They
That's
say
it.
the next episode's going to come out next. If they say the next episode's going to come out next month, guess what?
It comes out
the
next
next month.
Yep.
You're not waiting years for the next episode.
For me, I'm all about story, but I was talking to somebody earlier that if a story is awesome but the gameplay stinks, it takes away from the story. Or if the story is not so great but the gameplay is really good, it can help add to the story, but it works in tandem. Like, I'm a book person. If I think it's got a good story, but the person can't write, like their grammar's bad or they have this, like I'm not a fan of Faulkner because I don't like run-on sentences, and he basically starts a sentence at the beginning and 150 pages later he's got the end of a sentence, right? I'm not a fan of that, but it works in tandem. So when we talk about story, like we talk about I think Uncharted 2 is probably one of the best games ever made, but I think it also has one of the best and smooth gameplays that you can find in an action game. Because it's got a good story, but because the gameplay is so good, it flows well. So I think it all goes together in a big thing. And as you say with Telltale games, you get something pretty solid every time out, and they say that they're going to give you something in a month. They get you in a month, and you get excited for it. So it all works together in a tandem to make a good game.
We're doing the do.
Sorry.
It's not on camera. Can you do it again?
Okay.
Charlie is addicted to Mountain Dew.
So
Diet Mountain Dew.
It makes him feel better.
whatever. Okay,
It's
so
healthy. It's
so
a diet.
small side story since I've been asked this a couple times. We have Ultra Confusion has a live Thursday night show, and part of my shtick is every single time I do the introductions, right after I pour 2 Mountain Dews into a cup and then I drink the entire time. I'm a Mountain Dew guy, even though Mountain Dew isn't sponsored.
One's always code red.
Yes, one's always Code Red and one's always Mountain Dew.
You never know.
Yeah, I know.
Right,
Momocon
Momocon.
is
Momocon!
But we couldn't see the dew
Because he's in the way.
because he was in the
He
way.
didn't hold the can right.
Sorry.
You ruined it.
Sir, you have to record.
Hold on a second, it's gonna take me a while. No, I love me some Mountain Dew. All because of my crazy ass class schedule when I was in college. Anybody ever heard of Full Sail?
Yeah.
That's why I drink Mountain Dew.
Way to take responsibility for your own actions.
Yes, sir.
With the rise of indie gaming, what do you think where do you think AAA gaming is going to, since they're scared to take on new IPs?
More DLCs. DLCs all the time.
Reboots, sequels. I mean, the thing is, there's a chance that one of these like small indies is going to be bought up by one of the big bad wolves, and then chances are that game will never be the same. But that's their way of doing like brand new IP. There's literally not a lot of room for error. Gone are the days where you can kind of throw a couple games out there and see if any stick. They have to be proven entities, and of course, if there is new IP, the heavy, I don't know, hopefully it's changed, but a couple years ago, the heavy dependence on Metacritic scores would literally either derail a chance for a sequel or enhance something that's just absolutely terrible. Because one, not everyone grades on a 100-point scale, and two, because not everyone grades on a 100-point scale, sometimes interpretations of those numbers get skewed, and what was a 4 out of 5 turns into an 80, and if you get below an 85, you don't get a sequel.
And I personally feel that video games, like the movie business now, are looking for content that they can make sequels out of. I don't know if y'all have heard, Lionsgate has already said they're going to try to make 6 or 7 new Power Ranger movies.
Yeah!
they're gonna make 6 or 7 more. I think video games on the AAA side are looking for something similar.
They're already doing that though.
Yeah,
They're looking for the
but
subscription.
that's how they come up with a new IP. Can this make a good sequel afterwards?
That and also DLCs. I mean, I joke, but the reality is you're not going to see a AAA title without DLCs or some kind of maps, or as Charlie loves, the online gameplay they just tacked onto your new AAA title.
Well, okay, so you know, one of the newer tactics is you do the season pass. You know, you get all the DLC for an extended amount of time, and that's their way. Like, you know you're gonna like it, so just buy a big number. You know, buy it for a big chunk now, and it'll pay later. Hopefully, you still play the game. Battlefield.
So the problem here is the same one that, like when I mentioned Call of Duty, so like somebody asked, like, why does Call of Duty sell so much? And I said it's because of the silent majority, the people that aren't in this room, you know, the people that don't follow game websites or anything. I look at Square Enix, and Square Enix tried, they had some, like, you know, they had Bravely Default, brand new IP, and it did okay. But the silent majority, or maybe they were a little vocal here, or basically the majority of their customers said, we want Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Right.
We want a remaster of Final Fantasy X. We want a remaster of Final Fantasy XII. Okay, that last one was just me. But that's what they want. And Square Enix finally said, okay, we hear you. We're not going to spend that much time making new IPs. We're going to continue working on the Final Fantasy universe, and we're going to give you all that, because that's what the overwhelming majority have said they want. They don't want to take a chance on a Bravely Default, which, even though it was a great game and you should, because everybody's like, I want remakes of what I remember from my childhood. And so that's why they kind of abandoned their original IPs.
They did come out with Bravely Second.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty decent game.
Yeah. If you didn't hear what he said, they did come out with Bravely Second. I was repeating so everybody could hear it.
I've got one question for the audience here, though. When this Final Fantasy VII, thank you, Lord. When this remake comes out, who thinks it's going to be as good as you remember it?
I never.
Well, it's going to be completely different anyway.
That's what I'm going to bring up.
I know it's going to be episodic. I know.
Nostalgia is great when it comes to video games.
Yep.
It'll look pretty.
Yes, well, absolutely. It's going to look very pretty.
I have a question.
Next.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
You just brought up the point about if the remaster of Final Fantasy VII is going to be as good as the original. I never got a chance to play the original, so that's why I was looking forward to this. Also, I have never played a Legend of Zelda game because, well, I was growing up, I was restricted. But something I was always hoping that they would do is I was always hoping that they would remaster the Legend of Zelda series for the current generation, not just re-release it for 3DS and all that. Do you think they'll ever do that with like the original Zelda or the original Final Fantasies and those classics?
If there's enough clamoring, I'm sure that's possible. The fact of the matter is that when it comes to remastering, no offense to the publishers and developers, but they're lazy as shit. They don't want to do a lot of work. They want to be able to pump something out as quickly as possible. So what they're doing is they're remastering last generation's games, which is kind of ridiculous because I still have that console. I can already play it. I don't need to, the extra 60 pixels or something.
Here's my take on that. So especially, I'm going to basically just concentrate on the first Legend of Zelda and should they remake it for current gen. No, I don't think they should, because the minute they do that, it loses the charm. And I'm going to give an example. I actually cover a lot about virtual reality. So I've actually was one of the first people that covered the Oculus Rift back in the first dev kit days 3 years ago. And somebody out there, a college student, who did it, he did a good job with what he could do, remade The Legend of Zelda in virtual reality. It was first person, it was, and you basically ran through and he had all that, you went down and you got to get the sword and the text appeared above and you had to look up to see it and stuff. And it completely fundamentally changed what made the original Legend of Zelda special. Even though it was with current technology, current graphics, and it basically kind of killed kind of the magic, just so you could have the nostalgia of, oh my gosh, I'm actually in the first dungeon and I'm looking around and I couldn't see that hand that was behind me, and now I'm all the way at the beginning. Because in the original Legend of Zelda, it's top down, so those hands right before the boss, you could see them coming. But if it's like a first person, they have to completely change that mechanic because you can't see them coming up behind you. So do I think they should be remade for today's generation with like 3D graphics? No, because I think it would kill the charm. I like the Final Fantasy remasters because they've like upped the texture count and added some of like the international versions, but they haven't fundamentally changed the game, trying to make it work with new technology.
Along those lines, would you say for instance, the DuckTales HD remaster and adding in additional narrative and actual voice actors from the show, which you didn't get from the original, that is like a good example of
That's a good example because the game itself was the same. He's asking about DuckTales remastered. The game itself was the same gameplay. It was still a side scroller, and a lot of the level. And they added some stuff to the levels, but overall it was still the same experience.
Only the 3Ds where you don't want anything to do with it, but seeing like an upgraded 2D graphics, an increased narrative. That's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Vert did a great soundtrack too. Jake Kaufman.
Yes, sir.
What do you guys think about No Man's Sky?
No Man's Sky.
Oh, it was delayed.
Wait, what? Wait, they delayed it again?
Yeah.
August 9th is the new release date.
When did they just announce this?
About 4 hours ago?
Yeah.
No, like literally 4 hours ago.
As we just talked about Telltale Tales, which always comes out on
Telltale
time.
Games.
Yeah. Hello
Same
Game's not
idea.
the same.
Whatever. We're all depressed. Very depressed.
I'm very looking forward to it though.
Ditto.
Yep. Looks to be awesome. We have to wait a little bit now.
Yes, sir. Please step up to the mic.
More extra life. Now we really have to go check out your booth.
Absolutely.
I've already signed up.
I need to sign up again now.
Do it twice.
What is your take on speedrunning?
Speed running? Oh. Okay.
Wasn't there a game that somebody like just recently got into a speedrun that don't think will ever be beatable?
Yeah, I'm sure.
No, like this was like in the last 2 weeks. Donkey Kong.
Well, no,
Oh, that's not a speed
That
run.
one is
That's a
high
hyper.
score. Okay. Yes.
What is your take on speedrunning and the idea of breaking a game just to beat it as fast as possible?
I think it's hilarious.
I think that if you can do it, that's cool. I mean, it's like, you learn a special trick that not a lot of people are going to find interesting, but for those people who do find it interesting, good for you.
If they enjoy doing it, why not? I mean, at that point, especially because most of those are single-player games, who cares if they're breaking the game to do it? It's like their own little challenge to see, can you break the game to make it go faster? Why not at that point? I think it's pretty entertaining.
And it shows that most of game development is fooling the player. Because they exploit the ways that they cut corners to make the game work well and do things. And that's kind of fascinating as a programmer myself and somebody who's into, looking into game development. And I mean, I love the Awesome Games Done Quick marathons. Those are great. And I'll sit there and watch those for a week, and then I'm like, I don't think about speed running again until 6 months later in the Summer Games Done Quick. So I think it's really fun to watch. I wouldn't be the type of person to watch all the Twitch speedrunners that speed run every night, but no, I think it's really neat to kind of see how the game was made and what corners they cut.
That was actually the answer I was hoping someone could give.
Yeah.
Because from a programmer's perspective, it's like, what did they do to, like you said, cut corners and stuff like that?
There's an indie game out right now. It was called Super Win the Game. And it was by, I can't remember, I think it was Kyle Pittman. Kyle Pittman did that. David Pittman's his brother and does other games. He actually put in glitches specifically for speedrunners to see if they would find them in his game. And I don't know if the speedrunners found it or not, but he said he actually put some stuff in there.
The second question, kind of along the same lines, but it ended up breaking games really. Why don't we have IDDQD anymore? I mean, cheat codes,
DLC.
stuff like that.
Online
DLC.
and online games.
DLC.
Because if you're playing online, they don't want you to, have the God mode basically with all your weapons.
And also I mean, you have the codes for like the cheat codes, and then if you want to go to the original Nintendo and maybe Super Nintendo, you had those codes for saves.
Up, down, left, right, A, B, A, B.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
That's close.
Yeah.
Still doing it on PC.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
You put in cheat codes on like Red Dead Redemption, like oh you can't earn trophies or anything.
Right.
Or something like that.
Well, I mean, one of the things is that the cheat codes were just kind of there for fun, and now, yeah, the game industry's lost a lot of that fun.
Yeah.
Um,
That soul is gone.
Yeah. What's
Scott, did anybody ever play Civilization 2?
What?
Where you can intentionally put cheat codes, and like they had an entire like debug mode in Civilization 2, where you would intentionally like break stuff just on purpose for that, you know, to add a different dimension of fun to the game that you just don't get in really any other 4X game.
I'm just depressed that kids today don't have to remember ID, SPI, SPOPD.
What?
That was the original no clip in Doom, was ID, SPI, SPOPD, and it's like, it was, the backstory was on Usenet and the news groups. They had a fake game and it was like Space Pirates in something. Basically the acronym was SPI, SPOPD. And it was like one of the, something related to Doom, because they had already done Wolf 3D, so people were following it there. And they put that as an Easter egg, and that was the no clip mode. And then later they're like, yeah, nobody's gonna remember that, so we're gonna change it to ID clip.
Okay, what I remember, and it's funny that I remember, was it ABACABB, which was the blood code in Mortal Kombat 1 for the Sega. And I
For the Sega
remember it
CD.
being a big, what?
I think it was the Sega CD version, or was it also
No,
the
it was
Genesis?
the cartridge version.
Okay.
And I remember it being a big deal because Sega wanted to have blood in the game, but Nintendo did not. And so the developer went with Nintendo, except created the cheat code for the blood in Mortal Kombat. And I remember because they didn't want the game to be too violent, and they felt adding blood would make it too violent.
And now look where we are.
And now look where we are,
Look at Mortal
because
Kombat now. It's realistic.
it like blew open the gates for what a video game could do when it came to violence.
And look what it's done to our youth.
I know.
No,
we have now been stunted, and I'm extremely a violent person because of it.
He's wanted to punch me 3 times tonight.
Really?
I have. I've said that multiple times.
Yes, sir.
Speaking of Doom, I tried to type in ID2D in the new one. It didn't even give you anything. In Doom 3, it at least said your memory serves you well.
Nice.
Where do you think or I guess, how long do you think VR is going to last?
Bobby?
So I'm a VR developer. So I've been following it. So I'm a little biased. So I'm just gonna throw that out there. I think the thing that we need to find as VR developers, and I'm using the royal we on this, is we need to find that killer game that you can only play in VR. Right now we don't have it, which is why this question is getting asked. We haven't found that experience that you have to have VR to do. Hopefully, when we get enough minds on it and get enough people, we will find that. I hope that we will. But it's actually here, it works. It's not like Dactyl Nightmare in the 90s, which, you put the big helmet at Dave & Buster's and looked around and there were like 4 polygons of a dinosaur that was about to kill you. I don't consider Virtual Boy virtual reality. I actually don't.
That was
yeah.
just a headache.
Yeah. 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 Your mom always said to stay away from the TV was because she didn't want you to get too close to the Virtual Boy, but now we put them right on our face and we're happy about it. So no, I think it's gonna last. I hope it does. I think we're gonna find that killer app. Hopefully PlayStation VR does that. I'm hoping if anybody's gonna figure out how to get it to last, it's gonna be the PlayStation VR because it's gonna be tied to the PS4, it's gonna be cheaper than all the others. And then people may migrate to the more expensive platforms on PC. But we've got to find that killer game, and right now it doesn't exist.
Also, they'll stick around because in the past we'd have the gimmicks, as Jesse really likes to call them, like the Wii and the Kinect and the PlayStation glow sticks, and those were really gimmicks.
It's
because
not a glow stick, dude. It's bouncy balls on ends of sticks.
It looks
and
like
they change colors.
They belong in
And
a
they
rave.
change, that's true.
What about Samsung Gear VR?
But those were really extra peripherals, and you had game developers would make them with their optional parts of the game. You didn't really need to ever use the Kinect. You didn't really ever need to use the glow sticks. Whereas you're gonna get, like he said, with the VR, eventually you are gonna get to those games where the fundamental interaction with that game really is virtual reality. And really, once you finally get those games, I'm a true believer in VR, and I'm not a VR developer. I think that really is the next evolution in video gaming. You're always going to have your traditional, I think, Charlie doesn't like the word console, but you're always going to have your console. You're going to have this, but VR is going to be another own entity of gaming of some sort, really. Because it's a different way of interacting.
Now, I want to mention him because he mentioned the Samsung Gear VR. I have a Note 4, so I actually have the Gear VR. I don't have it with me, but this is the phone that goes into it. This is really good for 360-degree videos and stereoscopic videos, and that actually has a lot of legs outside of gaming. So like real estate companies will allow people, they'll use Google Cardboard, and instead of when you're trying to buy a house, look at photos, well, they could actually have a 360 photo, and you're looking around with Google Cardboard. There's a group here called ATL VR. They're a company in Atlanta. They actually have a panel, I believe it's Sunday at, it's either 11:30 or 1 o'clock or something in the afternoon. They actually took some tourism, VR tourism, to a VA hospital. And these are people that can't get out of the hospital, and there were tears because they actually had like 360 video from a church. And these people have not been able to leave the hospital to go to a church service in probably 10 years. And they were crying because they had 360 video with the audio and they could look around and they were in that church. That's never going away.
Google does something for classrooms where you can actually, as a teacher, get Google View to come out, and the person brings all the equipment. They bring the cardboard, they bring everything, and you can take your students to the rainforest, you can take them to the coral reef, and it's completely interactive. When it comes to gaming, I don't know how long it's going to take for it to hit and be something constant that we see in gaming, but it's already out there for other purposes, education, for the tours. And I know Bobby and I were talking about when we innovate, even if it doesn't stick around fully, there are parts of it that stay that we don't even think about it staying. We were talking about the Rumble Pack earlier. When Nintendo 64 introduced the Rumble Pack, it was a gimmick. And now you can't buy a controller without it vibrating.
So is the control stick.
So is the
having an
control
analog
stick.
thumbstick.
And
that was
so,
a gimmick.
even if it doesn't stick around, there are parts of it because they innovate and because it's important for gaming that will stay. So maybe we won't use VR all the time. There could be parts that we use and we don't even realize where it came from.
So let me mention this peripheral. Microsoft Kinect, right? We're all gonna laugh about it, right? Because it kind of sucked. I enjoyed Fantasia, but it really sucked as a gaming peripheral. There's one place that the Kinect is doing really well. Hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
Because when a surgeon is in the operating room and he's sterile in a sterile environment, he can't be touching a keyboard or a mouse or flipping pages, but he can stand in front of a TV and do this because of the Kinect and be able to look at things without disrupting the sterile environment. And that's really, gaming kind of introduced the technology of the Kinect and they tried to work on it there, but then it got legs outside of gaming and that's where everybody's using it now.
And for my 2 cents real quick, I think that for VR to really have that, that sticking power, I think that it's actually going to happen outside of gaming first, and then once it's really, it's found its way, like the 3D tours or whatever, then it gives enough time for that killer app to come out.
I will tell you what is not going to come around is augmented reality gaming. Other than on your phone, maybe Pokemon Go or something, but everybody's talking about the Microsoft HoloLens being a competitor to VR in gaming. No, it's not. And I have actually played games on the HoloLens. I played that Conquer game that they've told you. You have face raiders on your 3DS, or at least I did when the 3DS first came out. How many times did you play that?
Barely.
That's HoloLens gaming right there. Is pretty much, that's all they can do right now. So AR is the augmented reality side where it puts holograms over your existing environment. That's going to be great in business applications and sales and stuff like in your enterprise VR or AR solutions, but it's not going to be a great gaming device.
Yes, sir. Come on down.
We have one over here, and we got a couple.
All right.
Do you just want to form a line behind the microphone?
That block,
Oh, sorry, Mike, forgot about you.
Wow.
You forgot about the internet. The entire internet is over there.
Y'all can just start migrating towards
Hi, internet.
Yeah.
Oh,
What?
10 minutes?
10 minutes? All right. Yes, sir. Go for it.
I know how technology is making society better all around for everybody. Everybody knows it, but
Technology
it's also,
rules.
yeah. But it's also making things a lot easier, and for the younger generation, you know, they're growing up to really have these things and not know how difficult things were. Of course, do you think this is actually also affecting the video games and making the introductions give you too many explanations, they're too long, they're treating you, they're babying you, they're...
No, come on, fine, I'll answer the question. Go on.
Is it making video games more easy?
No.
Have you seen the Souls game?
I have seen Dark Souls.
No, personally, I think the thing is that as the price for development has gone up, the desire to have as many gamers as possible has also gone up. And I think that the entry point on games has just gotten way freaking down, so that more and more people play. And I think it's not that it's being easier, because in the end it could be as difficult as the games of the past, but I think that there's definitely a much lower starting point, and that will turn some gamers off.
We also have difficulty levels. You didn't have that in the past. You also have saves. Take a game like Mario, or what is that, or Toad Brothers or something?
Battletoads.
Battletoads. It's like,
but DuckTales did have easy, medium, and hard. DuckTales had it.
Battletoads had one of like the hardest stages like ever in gaming. It's this crazy fast stage, but you didn't have a save. And so you got, played hours of games, you get this really hard stage, you get to basically practice it 2 times without that save mode. And that's the big difference. You got save modes, you got difficulty modes. So I don't know if necessarily games are harder or easier. I think it's just the reality has changed where you got both of those, which maybe gives that illusion of easier games. The other illusion I think is also you got your mobile games, which gives a much lower barrier of entry into games that you didn't have before.
I just think it's relative. Like what we thought was difficult back then, people might think is easy now, and what we think is hard now might actually be easy. I mean, it's relative. The one thing that I have to say has gone away, because you just don't see much anymore, is just what is it? The info, like the booklets, the gaming booklets that used to come with all your card
Instruction manuals.
Your instruction manuals. Where you didn't have tutorials, you read the instruction manual, and that's what you got.
Screw that, dude. I winged it.
I played Baldur's Gate, you go through the entire game.
Yeah, right. So
That was the first deal.
So there was a very interesting experiment that a game journalist did with his kid. Because we always, I don't have any kids, but I guess that's what you do. They're guinea pigs. And what he did is he said, okay, I'm going to raise my kid through the gaming generations. I'm not going to let him play anything until, so he started his kid on the Atari 2600. And then the next year got him up to, the NES, and then kind of worked through. And then he finally got to today's games, and this kid's 11, and he put him in front of I think Super Meat Boy was one of them. And the kid demolished the game. He was great at it. Without, and a lot of people kind of have problems getting through Super Meat Boy or some of those other type of games that are like that. But because his son had a lot of experience with those hard games from the 2600 and the NES, he was able to adapt quicker to the indie games of today that pride on their hardness. I don't know if you put him in front of I Want to Be the Guy, but I would love to have watched that stream.
You're welcome.
Or blowing out your cartridges.
The power of love.
Which didn't actually.
Yes, sir. Hey.
So you mentioned Guitar Hero, and I don't know how familiar are you guys, the other people, with it, but I grew up on Guitar Hero, and I have had every Guitar Hero out up until Warriors of Rock, except for Modern Hits. And what I noticed right when they announced Guitar Hero Live was that most of the all of the art they had, they scrapped it. I mean, there's no more character design, there's no more environment design. It's more of an interactive thing that you're on stage and stuff. So basically, scrapping concept art, all of that. Do you think that maybe a thing that maybe the game, maybe not just Guitar Hero or the gaming industry perhaps, is just the interactivity and the gameplay prevailing over art or the art of the game, or do you think that it's just a whole different.
Well, there was still art because they still had to shoot 2 different concerts.
Yes.
For each, because so if you've never played Guitar Hero Live, which and the online mode is actually all the music videos, so it's actually like MTV, which they've got 2 channels of streaming music videos, and you just sit there and play the music videos.
Yes.
But so what they had to do is they actually had to direct 2 different videos for each song in the single player campaign. One where you're doing well, and one when you're doing poorly. And the ones when you're doing poorly are hilarious because they changed the signs to "you suck" and they're throwing things at you. It's hilarious. And that's an art form too. You know, movies are art as well. So maybe they just changed the art design, but there was still artistry in there. So I think they just decided they needed to do something in a completely different direction to get people to care again after Activision destroyed the music game industry by releasing a Guitar Hero every 6 months.
Yeah. When Guitar Hero became Call of Duty.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just because like my first was Guitar Hero 3, and I had the other ones, but it had like a little story and all, and characters. You know, they were described that, so I don't know, I was kind of upset. But and I played the new one, but yeah, that's. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, sir.
Yeah, revisiting the old subjects a minute ago, VR headsets.
Yep.
What are your interpretations on it being very successful with developers making things for the VR headsets? Considering I work at a retailer that sells video games, no comment. They going over our head a lot to try to get people to buy these things, but they don't give us any information about them. It's not going to be in everyone's household. Do you think developer companies are going to be on board with this, given that this is probably a fact?
So really the thing that opened developers' eyes were 2 things. It was when Facebook bought Oculus, because now they actually have a big company that's behind them, even though they're making some mistakes now for the hardcore people. But also Sony. Sony with the PlayStation VR, that's going to be your first mass market one that's going to be easier to get people into. And because Sony's putting some muscle behind it, that's when you're going to get some of your AAA games to go into it. I know EA, which is Charlie's favorite company, is working on some VR-specific experiences. I think around like Star Wars Battlefront and things like that. But it really, the reason they haven't jumped on board yet because they didn't know if it was going to happen, and Oculus was so small, and they didn't know if it was going to work. And then Facebook bought them, and they're like, okay, we're on board now. But it takes time, and they've only been at it for like a year, and it takes 2 years or so for a good AAA game to come out.
We're speaking strictly about the Rift. They're the most advanced VR headset. I mean, there's a ton of them out there. A lot of them gone through Kickstarter, and I think with the exception of the Rift, because the Rift is so far advanced past all the other points, I think if you talk about any of the other VR headsets, it has to be for them to succeed. It has to be a standardized code base. They have to find a general pipeline for everyone to show the same thing. If everyone's got their own flavor of how they do things, then it's just going to fall apart.
Isn't the Vive up there with the Rift though, as far as technology?
Oh, the Vive is actually the full experience. I am actually more into the Vive now because of the room scale. I have both. I have both the Rift and the Vive. And the Vive is, and Steam VR, which is because Valve is backing the Vive, it runs on the Oculus Rift. You can make Oculus Rift stuff with Steam VR. It's Oculus that's like, no, you can't run our stuff. But so I think Vive is the one, like it's the full experience today, and they've got an open VR platform that you can make for any VR headset.
I think as far as the gaming community goes, that's if anything what's going to help to push the Vive. You got Steam, or take like the Steam box where you have really little incentive to actually buy a Steam box. What's the point when you can build your own gaming PC for the same price?
It's already a PC.
Windows? Okay, without Linux, don't limit your library. Versus the actual VR, where you actually have incentive to buy an HTC Vive over what else is there. So I definitely think having Steam implemented with the VR will definitely help it out.
Should we be excited as the core gaming community?
Yes.
Or no?
Yes.
We always
Yes.
excited.
Yes. It may not be affordable until next year, but yes.
Yep.
I think.
Are we out of time?
You got 20 seconds.
20 seconds.
Go, we got 10
Go,
seconds.
go, go.
Okay, with,
Yes.
with some gamers liking to 100% some games, there are some games designed such a way that once you reach a certain point, you can never get an items or, accomplish certain side quests. What are y'all thoughts on that?
I used to be a completionist. I used to try to get 100% on everything, but after playing a game called Suikoden and missing out on one single fucking character, so I couldn't get the perfect ending, I gave up on being a perfectionist.
I really don't care about completion. Like, if I'm playing a video game, I just care about beating the stage and moving on to the next boss, and getting the next biggest, sword or whatever. But, as far as games like kill 100% of all enemies, whatever. It's really doesn't affect me. But if I were a completionist, then knowing that those previous characters, if they're cut off, I'd probably stop playing. If that was my style of gameplay, because it pisses me off so much.
I haven't beaten a game in 4 years.
Yeah, I just don't care.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of our panel. Thank you for tuning in. Man. All right, if y'all want, we've got free buttons, and we've also got cards that have all of our social media things, our website, our Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch. Follow us on all of those. If you have any comments, concerns, or criticisms, or maybe some games or suggestions that we need to talk about, hit us up on any of those channels and go straight to me.
And every Thursday night, we do an 8:30 live stream.
8 o'clock. We do it at 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock, dude.
And I'm Sundays at 8 p.m.
There you
on
go.
vognetwork.com.
There you go.
You're welcome.